Hello, everybody. Welcome to Berry Aftercare, the podcast, and Berry Aftercare, the live video. Today, I'm going to talk about shenanigans. It is March, and we fairly recently celebrated St. Patrick's Day. I had to think for a minute there. Is it really March? Yep, it's March. Fairly recently celebrated St. Patrick's Day, and so we're going to talk about shenanigans. And I thought shenanigans was probably a better word than BS or excuses or lies. So I want to be fair and firm. So today is going to be a big old hug of compassion with a little swift kick in the rear as we go. I started this little swift kick in the rear last Thursday on the second Berry Aftercare live video of the week. But today, since we're doing the podcast, we'll do a little sharing of the butt kicking. But I do so lovingly, I promise you. All right, so I want to address some of the things that people say to me, and you have said some of these yourself. I have said some of these myself. Most of us have engaged in shenanigans of one sort or another to avoid doing things we simply don't want to do. And we believe our own BS sometimes, right? So today we're going to involve a lot of the things that we've already talked about on the podcast and in Berry Aftercare and combine them in the framework of our shenanigans or our BS. You know, there's a wonderful saying that goes, "Are you baffled by your own BS?" In other words, are you buying the crap you're selling yourself? Because sometimes we do. So let's go over some of the more common little BS lines that we've heard over the years. And they may have truth to them, but in the grand scheme of the weight loss surgery world, and in accordance to your, hopefully, meaningful matter, your vision, your long-term goal of living at a healthy weight and getting rid of a lot of your medical problems and being able to do the kinds of things that you want to do in your life, if I'm not mistaken, those are some of your goals, then these little shenanigan statements need to be flushed down the Louvre. All right, so let's talk about this. The one that I came up with first was, I'm not a breakfast eater. How many of you have said or continue to say, I'm not a breakfast eater? Well, remember those four ACEs, one of them being commitment. And this is kind of where I left off last week on Thursday. When you made a choice, meaning I chose to do this, meaning I had options. And this is the option that I selected for my life. Bariatric surgery is a choice that you have made to help you live your life without significant health problems or a reduction in the health problems that you may be having, and an increase in the ability to enjoy the things you like doing in life. So when you made the commitment because you wanted those things, then you are agreeing to doing the kinds of things the dietitian told you about, the surgeon told you about, the things I've been sharing with you, the things the exercise people, like you kind of committed by saying, I'll do those things. By signing the consents and the waivers, you were like, I know that this is a tool, and I know that there are some things I've got to do. Oh, hence the gotta do ems, right? Another thing we've talked about in our prior podcasts. There are things that I've got to do if I want to keep what I say I want. So if you've said before surgery and you continue to say after surgery, I've never been a breakfast eater. Let me ask you this question. How badly do you want what you said you wanted before you had the surgery? Enough to say, okay, it may be true I've never been a breakfast eater, or I don't really enjoy eating breakfast, or I'm not hungry at breakfast time. How badly do you want the healthy lifestyle? Badly enough to eat some breakfast anyway? Badly enough to get some protein into your body within the first couple of hours that you've been awake? Now, I'm not going to talk about how many grams or how much or within how many hours, but I would encourage you to talk to your bariatric dietitian because they have guidelines and there are some variations across programs. But I will tell you that I know it's true that they want you to have a certain amount of protein into your body within a certain amount of time of getting up. So if you don't get up until 11 a.m., that's fine. You're eating your breakfast when a lot of the world is eating their lunch. It doesn't matter. The point is, do you want what you said you want badly enough to let go of the shenanigans or the BS or the excuse? I'm just not a breakfast eater. So think about it. I'll come back to that. We'll go with that for right now. Now, remember those ACEs, right? Awareness. Most of you have been told prior to having weight loss surgery. So you're probably aware. You were told you need to eat breakfast. And most of you, prior to having surgery, had the attitude, I'm willing to do whatever it is I got to do. I don't want this lifestyle anymore. So if I've got to suffer through putting some food into my stomach in the first couple of hours, then I'm willing to do that. I hope that was your attitude then. And I'm going to nudge you gently to recover that attitude or to develop that attitude because hopefully you still want the things you said you wanted before you had surgery, right? And maybe this is one of those things that you just got to accept. Another four, he says, I've got to accept that I understood, I was aware that I needed to have food in my body, breakfast-ish, couple hours it doesn't have to be breakfast food, protein in my body within a couple of hours. I said I would do it. And I'm going to be accountable and I'm going to accept the fact that this is something I still need to do because here's what I'm seeing, and you're seeing it too. If you look anywhere on social media, you're seeing people who are struggling to keep their weight off after weight loss surgery. Now, some of that is biological, and I understand that. And so that's not whose butt I'm kicking. The biological piece that says my body adapts and I'm going to regain a little bit of weight. I'm talking about the people who say, I'm not going to eat breakfast. Never have, never will. I'm just not a breakfast eater. Now, I've heard people say another little variation, which I think is really pretty clever. They'll say, well, I'm just not the toothbrushing kind of person either, but I do it because I went to the dentist first thing this morning and had yet another crown placed in my mouth. I swear half my teeth are crowns. And it's not because I don't brush my teeth. So if I were saying, you know what, I'm not a toothbrushing kind of gal, and therefore I have all these crowns in my mouth, then you might want to say, well, you brought this on yourself to a degree, right? You may have genetically poor teeth, which I do, but I have put forth the effort, taken the responsibility, been accountable, accepted the fact that I have genetically weak teeth. But I have gone to the dentist every 6 months to a year throughout my entire life. I have brushed my teeth 2 or more times a day for all of my life. So I've put forth the effort and the results are what they are. So if you're eating breakfast and you're doing all you got to do and you still put on a few extra pounds, then it's about something else. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about your part, your effort, your commitment, your willingness, your attitude, your accountability for something you said you were going to do, right? Kind of the same example. I just thought of that because I went to the dentist this morning and had yet another crown. Anyway, so that's one of the shenanigan things I hear a lot about. I'm not a breakfast eater. Well, you don't have to be a breakfast eater. Do it anyway. You don't have to be. I'm not a tax-paying kind of person. Well, people who routinely aren't tax-paying kind of people end up with some fines or worse, right? Or I'm not a speed limit driving kind of person. Well, those people oftentimes end up with a lot of points on their license or revoked license or a lot of speeding tickets or whatever it is. So you do get to choose, and that is the good news. You're in charge of this whole deal. But you got to understand that all choices have consequences. Healthy choices have healthier outcomes, healthier consequences. Unhealthy choices have unhealthier consequences. So if you're not eating breakfast and you're just sticking to your BS of, I'm just not a breakfast eater, so what? Right? What if your kid's in school and your kid says, I'm really not much of a test taker. I think I'll pass on the exams this year. You're going to put up with that from your child, right? And the kid fails the seventh grade? No, you're going to say, sorry, this is your job. You go to school, taking tests are part of the deal. That's what you're going to do. Why? Because our job as parents is to teach our children to be healthy adults. Follow through with your commitments, right? Why do we let ourselves off the hook so easily? So if you're not a breakfast eater, I suggest maybe you find another way of saying, I'm going to put some food in my body within the first couple of hours I'm awake. And you can still say, I'm not a breakfast eater, but I am a taker carer of myself in healthy ways. There you go. How's that for a creative way of not buying into your own BS? All right. Now let's move on to my other favorite excuse. One that I have very little tolerance for, I will tell you that. And I know that I have a bias about this, and I'll tell you where my bias comes from. People say, I don't have time. What don't we have time for? We don't have time to meal prep. We don't have time to log our food. We don't have time to exercise. We don't have time to whatever it is we need to do to maintain our healthy weight, right? Now, there may be times, and I said this to a person the other day, I'm like, you know what? I usually don't buy that. But listening to you right now and the way your life is right at this particular moment, I'm going to give you that. And it was because they had a sick child who was at all these doctor's appointments and had to be at really long medical appointments and all these things. That's not typical for you and I. You and I are typical busy, right? We have kids and grandkids that need to be hauled around and taken to school at different times and picked up at different times. And we have, maybe we're in school part-time ourselves, or we're maybe taking, like I'm taking this 500-hour yoga course that requires quite a bit of time. And, you have a partner or a significant other or a spouse, and you have work, and we have all these things. We have very, very busy lives. We keep ourselves extraordinarily, probably too busy, right? And yet I would challenge you to look on your iPhone. And unless you use your phone for work, I would encourage you to look at how many hours you have spent on your iPhone and to look at the breakdown. Are you texting 4 hours a day? Are you watching videos 6 hours a day or 2 hours a day or an hour and a half a day? Or where is your time going? Do you have time to watch your shows that you record? Do you have time to binge watch? Do you have time? I don't know. I don't know if you do or if you don't. But I do know that most of us use I don't have time as an excuse when we could alter our schedules so that we make the time. And I guarantee you, we have to make time to do things we don't want to do. So let's just call it what it is. I don't want to. I don't want to meal prep. I don't want to exercise. I don't want to log my food. And you don't have to. But if you want the outcome, then you will use the 4 ACEs. I'm aware that this will benefit me if I do this. I'm aware that it will lead me to what I say I want. I accept that I'm going to have to rearrange my schedule. And I may not be able to spend this much time on social media or this much time watching television or this much time on phone calls or this much time sewing or this much time, whatever it happens to be. So you may have to alter that, but it comes down to priorities, right? So you've heard people say we make time for what we want in life. So barring extraordinary circumstances, and I mean extraordinary, then most of us can find the time. Well, I'm taking my kids to all these events and I have to wait for them while they practice. We'll get out of your car and walk around the field while they're practicing, right? Use your time wisely. Don't sit in the phone and text for an hour and a half when you could be out walking for 30 minutes or so. So you've got to decide, but you got to use those 4 aces, right? I'm aware that this meal prepping is important for me, or I'm aware that taking the time to bring yogurt or a protein shake or have a little cooler with me. I'm aware. What's my attitude about it? Just don't want to have to do all of that. Well, you knew when you signed up for this. And I know you hate hearing that. But here's the deal, my friends. You hate it when your kids come and call you up and say, I forgot my socks, or I forgot my cleats, or I forgot my dance shoes, or I forgot my homework. You knew that this was due, or you knew that this was dance day, or you knew. We do that to our kids, right? But buddy, we let ourselves off the hook way too often. And I think, there's some truth in what I'm saying about that. Not all the time, but enough that we need to hold ourselves as accountable as we hold our 7 and 9 and 10-year-olds. So accept what it is, put forth the effort, and take good care of yourself. Now, again, back to that example with our kids. Maybe they're not test takers or they don't have time to study. Well, as a parent, as a healthy parent, we're going to make sure that our children know the priorities. And hopefully their education is more of a priority than their extracurriculars. Not that those things aren't important, because they are. But hopefully you're saying, let me help you balance your time. Or let's do vocabulary words in the car or spelling words in the car while we drive to the sporting event. And so you make the most use of the time you have. So we don't let our kids off the hook, and we find ways to get done what our children need to have done. And we work hard to help them have a good life, or, provide them with what we can, and to teach them the organizational skills. But we let ourselves off the hook for the same things we expect out of our children. So just think about that. All right, let's talk about exercise, because that's a whole category in itself where we buy into our own BS. It's boring. Well, maybe so, right? Depends on what kind of exercise you do. So there are exercises that are probably more boring than others. The treadmill being one of them. I don't care. I'm a huge fan of my treadmill. Not because of the treadmill, but because of the Young and the Restless, which I have shared with you. For literally 18 years, I have walked on my treadmill at least 3 times, usually closer to 5, watching my soap opera. Or now I have a little desk on my treadmill where I'll work on my computer, or I'll listen to part of the stuff from my yoga class, or I'll read a book on my computer. I am good at double tasking when I'm on my treadmill, because I still get the health benefits, but I'm also getting stuff done. So find something that's less boring to you. Well, all exercise is boring. Okay, we're going to accept that for you, all exercise is boring. Pick one and do it anyway, right? Pick one and do it anyway. You ask the kids to help with the chores if you're a good parent at home, because our job is to help teach our children that being part of a family or a community is pitching in and doing some of the chores. They don't want to do it, right? They think they're all boring. They think they're all the worst thing in the whole world. That's okay. You're going to learn to do it anyway. So what about you? Why are you letting yourself get off the hook, right? Here's that little kick in the rear here. Quit the shenanigans. Quit the excuses. Quit the buying your BS here. If it's boring, find one you find least boring. I can't afford it. Okay. I'm so sorry. Exercise is free. You don't have to go to the gym. You don't have to take yoga classes. You don't have to pay for burn boot camp. You don't have to pay for whatever. YouTube, most of us have YouTube at our fingertips. There are so many free exercise videos on there. And if you don't have a cell phone, if you don't pay for whatever it is you pay for to have YouTube, then get outside and walk. It's free. Oh, it's raining. I can't. It's cold. It's hot. I can't. No, it's cold. Walk inside. Get a jump rope. Jump rope inside. Get down on the floor. Do a plank. Do some leg lifts. Do some, stuff you saw Jack LaLanne do if you're really old and remember that. Or just turn on some music and have a dance party with your kids. Exercise does not cost too much. Okay, I've said it. Oh, COVID, can't exercise. Why not? Listen to what I just said, all right? I don't see results quickly enough. Well, you'll never see them if you don't do it. And there are days when I think, I have been an avid exerciser for years and years and years and years and years of my life. You would think that I would be so toned and have no cellulite. And, buddy, I have the 10% additional fat that comes with every decade of life that everybody else has. So what I've come to accept is that humanity is what it is. My genetics are what they are. And I'm grateful because I can only imagine how much cellulite I would have if I hadn't been exercising for 40 years, right? Yeah, I know I said 18 on my treadmill, but that's only been 18 on my treadmill. So we can find excuses all the way around. It's not fun. How fun is homework for your child? Hopefully you make them do it. How fun is, sitting through, and this is not, maybe this is a low blow and I don't mean it to be. How fun is sitting through dialysis or going to chemotherapy or having infusions? Or those things aren't fun for people, but they want to live. And so they do them, right? This is no different. Your life is at stake with your health and your weight, and you know that, which is part of the reason probably for many of you that you chose to have weight loss surgery to begin with. Things haven't changed just because you've lost your weight. Hopefully you still want to live, and hopefully you will remember every single day the commitments you made, and remember every single day that this surgery is nothing more than a tool, and you have seen people regain all of their weight, right? And most often, the people who regain their weight are not doing the things they need to be doing. So hold yourself accountable. Use these 4 ACEs. Quit with the excuses. I hate it. I hate it. I hate exercise. I just hate it. Think about a child who says, I hate cleaning my room. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate going shopping for shoes. I hate whatever it is. I hate cleaning the house. I hate it. Back to a healthy parent says, I understand you hate it. It's part of life. It's part of your responsibility as a member of this family. Then say the same thing to yourself. Yes, I hate exercise, but being healthy requires that I engage in it. Again, I'm pointing out part of this that we behave like children to a certain degree when we don't want to do things, when we engage in our shenanigans or BS or excuses, the lies we tell ourselves, right? We talked about the stories we tell ourselves, saying things like, I'm just not a breakfast kind of person. It's part of the story you tell yourself. And part of living this healthy life is changing the story. It's changing the story you tell yourself. How much effort are you putting into that, right? So the I'm too busy and I don't have time things, here's why I have a personal bias against that. And I do realize that not everybody is born with equal amounts of energy. And I do realize that when you're carrying around a lot of extra weight, it physiologically drains a lot of energy. But after you've had surgery, hopefully you've got increased energy. A lot of people report that they do. What are you doing with that energy, right? I am born with a ridiculous amount of energy. But even for those who aren't, the excuses of I don't have time, whatever. Here's why I just have very little tolerance for it. And I don't expect you to be like me, but I expect you to be your best self, whatever that means for you, right? I was in school, a PhD program, full time. We didn't have online. We were there 7, 8 hours a day. I had 3 children who were all in middle school, which meant a lot of extracurricular activities. I had my husband. Thank God he was helpful, but we still had a household to run. I still chose to exercise. I still chose to eat well, right? So I didn't have any more time than any of you have with all of your busy lives. And I have empathy for busy lives, but you got to make it work, right? Just like like your boss expects you to get your work done. Well, you might have to stay off Facebook a little bit at work, or you might have to stay a little overtime and get the job done. There are expectations, and we meet them in so many other areas of your lives. You be the one in charge of meeting your own expectations and get her done. All right. All the things like skipping meals or just one dessert won't hurt. And for some people, it doesn't. For other people, it does. Know who you are and accept. You know what? I have learned that I can have 2 cookies and I'm good and I've satisfied that desire and I'm on my way. You can accept that and you can give yourself credit for it. Other people may say, I have learned that if I have 2 cookies, I'm eating the whole package. That's not going to serve me well. So I have to accept, even though I don't like it, that I can't have a cookie. Now, you have to figure this out on your own. And that's why I really say be careful of what you tell other people. This is what to do. Say, this is what works for me. You can try it, it may or may not work for you. I've heard other people say that this works for them. This whole business of lifelong success after weight loss surgery, and by success, I just mean living at your optimal health at a weight that's healthy for your body and being able to do the things you want to do. I don't mean a goal weight. I just mean living a healthy lifestyle. So just say, this is what works for me, because there aren't any 2 people who do it exactly the same. But figure out what works for you and encourage people to figure out what works for them. How about, I have it in the house because my kids want it? Maybe. How old are your kids? Well, they're 18 and 17. Please. If you have 17 and 18-year-old children and you're bringing in unhealthy foods to your house and using them as your excuse, then I would encourage you to rethink what you're saying. They're old enough to drive, most likely, or they go to school where they have vending machines and all kinds of crap food, or they go to ball games where there's all kinds of crap food and things. Your children will get their junk food. I guarantee it. You don't have to use them as an excuse to bring it into your house. So all I'm doing here today is asking you to really dig deep into yourself and look at the shenanigans you pull with yourself, the stories you tell yourself, the you know, the ways we can find around what we knew going in. And if you say you didn't know these things going into this process, this choice of having weight loss surgery, then you need to encourage people not to go to that program because they're not educating people properly. But most of the programs that I'm aware of at this day and age are doing an incredible job of educating patients about what is expected and required if they want to keep their weight off. So don't don't refrain from making excuses, right? What good does it do you? You feel worse about yourself anyway, right? And I know this is a hard journey. I know it's hard. I hear every day about how it's hard, and I have lived a weight battle. I have lived an alcohol battle. I have quit smoking. Maybe you've quit smoking. It's hard. I get that. But when we become aware of the excuses we're making, when we become aware and accept the fact that we are selling a bunch of BS a lot of the time, and just take accountability. I'm just saying that because I don't want to do it. I just don't want to do it. Own it. And then say, I'm going to do it or I'm not going to do it. But do it as an adult. If you say, you know what, I'm not going to eat breakfast, that's okay. The good news is you owned it as a solid adult, making a decision for yourself. But the thing you got to own when you own that choice is whatever consequences come with it, right? If you say, I'm just not going to exercise, I'm just not going to do it. Okay. You as an adult have the right to do that. But know that for every choice we make, there is a corresponding consequence. You tell your kids, you forget your lunch, you're going to have to eat something at school. You don't like it? Sorry. You tell your kids, if you go to the baseball game without your hat, sorry, you're without your hat, right? We teach them that our actions have consequences. You clean your room, you get your allowance. You do your chores, whatever you do in your household regarding that. You get good grades, then we get to go do fun things. You do your homework after school, you get screen time. So if you do the things that you accepted as part of a bariatric aftercare program, yes, you did. They told you what needed to be done ahead of time, which is another way of saying you accepted what needs to be done. And you don't do it, then that's okay. Just own it and accept the consequences that go with it. If you want the positive consequences, the healthy outcomes, then do the healthy things and quit making excuses for it. No more shenanigans. All right, guys, that's it for today. Please share the podcast with others. There are so many people out there who have had weight loss surgery, and you don't really need to have had weight loss surgery to benefit from this podcast. So anybody you know that's working on weight loss, share the podcast with them. Any kind of information that we can gather is a benefit to us. If you don't like everything I say on here, no problem. I don't expect you to. Just take what you like, use what can help you, and don't worry about the rest. But pass it on, share with other people. And if you'd like the benefit of the worksheets and the additional weekly video and the monthly friends and family episode, please join Berry Aftercare, www.berryaftercare.com. You get reduced prices on Gain While You Lose, which is an amazing 10-week program, online class that we do, all kinds of different things. Retreats, I'm going to start retreats back up. You get discounts on retreats. So, good things. Okay, guys, make it a great day. Make it a good one. And as always, this is your health. It's your responsibility. This day, my friends, and every day. Make it a great one. Take care. Bye-bye.